How do you describe yourself as an artist when somebody meets you and says, tell me more, tell me about what you do?
That's very interesting question. The paper, when it gets wet, it warps. When somebody asks me, what do you do? What kind of art do you do? It's hard for me to describe. What many people are expecting is for it to be, oh, I paint or I do sculpture.
Jason S. Yee describes himself as a visual artist, not confined to one medium. Instead of focusing on one particular method, Yee lets the idea behind the artwork determine the format.
Nowadays, artists are much more multidimensional, that you're not necessarily pegged as a sculptor or a painter. So you could be doing a drawing, you could be doing a sculpture, or you could be doing mixed media because it fits the idea or the concepts that you have.
Whether it's drawing, painting, or sculpture, Yee's objective is to create an environment. He wants to transplant his audience to a different place so that they might see things in a different way.
So I like to think of it as a puzzle pieces that I put together that's based on my own personal experiences, but also engaging what I see in the world and bring a level of universality to the work so that people can engage from different angles and different perspectives.
As a professor at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, he teaches determination and patience as core principles of becoming an artist.
And I tell my students and younger generation of artists, build yourself slowly. It takes hard work.
On this episode of The Arts Page, we take you inside the mind and studio of the multi-talented Jason S. Yee. Originally from South Korea, Yee and his family immigrated to the Washington, D.C. area when he was 11 years old.
Whole another world just unfolded in front of me.
After college, Yee got a job at MIAD and has called Milwaukee home for the last 20 years.
What are some of your first memories of being here in Milwaukee and of the city?
The first memories are just people being very, very nice. My wife was saying, well, this must be the Midwest culture that they're being so nice and saying thank you and you're welcome, especially at MIAD, who was welcoming me to their community. That really, really made me feel like I could be here.
We spent the day at Yee's Bayview studio, where he and his two assistants, Marta Teresia and Maddie Bader, both of whom studied under him at MIAD, were working on a future exhibition.
Maddie just graduated from MIAD, and Marta will be a senior this coming year. And they're instrumental to my practice. As I often talk about community, I want to build community within the studio as well. They are my assistants, but they're also my collaborators. I do not hesitate asking them for their opinions.
What is this part of the process?
So this part of the process is to stretch out the paper. So what we're trying to do is to stretch the paper by relaxing it first, letting it expand. Then we're going to tape it around and staple it all down. Therefore, the paper is permanently stretched and it alleviates any warpage when it gets wet. So the paper stays flat no matter what the humidity level is or how wet the surrounding is.
As a child, Yee says he was always drawing. He filled up sketchbooks throughout elementary, middle, and high school. His father was a trained painter and would paint in front of him all the time. Seeing his father paint was extremely influential to Yee.
Just watching him paint was just super fascinating for me, just because of seeing these sort of images kind of unfold in front of you on a blank canvas or on paper.
And now when you're growing up and you're seeing your father do art and you're starting to do art, did you want to continue to study art?
Yes.
For college, Yee went to Virginia Tech, where he majored in architecture.
Graduated with an architecture degree and worked as an architect, but at the same time, I was still making art. I guess ultimately I found out that I wasn't really cut out for a 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or sometimes 8 to 9 job. I wanted to really think about like some level of freedom that you have when you're expressing yourself. So the work that I'm creating, sculpture work that I'm creating for this upcoming exhibition is so process oriented. What we're doing is we're cleaning out a plaster mold that is about to be embedded with paper fiber to create paper casting, so that they have to clean the clay well so the paper casting comes out clean and not have clay on it.
Yi went on to earn a master's degree in sculpture from the University of Georgia. He didn't consider teaching until an old friend from Virginia Tech reached out.
My old professor called me up and said, "Hey, I just heard that you received your master's degree. We are looking for a 1-year interim full-time professor. Would you be interested in coming back and teaching to your alma mater?"
Yi was hesitant at first. He didn't know if he had what it takes to be an educator.
That was such a tough decision, right? Because I think teaching is such a huge responsibility. Then after a few months of teaching, I really loved it. I really loved teaching. I really loved to interact with people, talk about art, to propagate the virtues of art and virtues of being creative.
After that interim position ended, Yi sought out a full-time teaching job, and he found that at MyAd.
Tell me about your teaching philosophy. What are you teaching at MyAd, and what do you really hope to get across to students?
I like to teach more topic-based classes. So the subject matter is not necessarily genres like sculpture or painting, but it's about certain topics that the world is faced with. So ultimately what we're hoping for is to create a full-size red crown crane that's about 6 feet tall.
Yi uses that philosophy in his own practice. His works are often themed around societal issues and current events. Here, Yi is working on an exhibition about the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
Which is the zone that separates North Korea from South Korea. And this zone is fascinating to me because, and I'll explain this in the strangest sense, that it's quite a beautiful, beautiful place. That demilitarized zone is devoid of human beings.
For decades.
For decades. During the war between North and South, there was a devastation of that landscape. After the war, when demilitarized zone was created and no human beings were allowed to enter into that space, animals that we thought in the Korean Peninsula thought were extinct were coming back into that environment. Without us realizing, we created a space that is an ecological paradise. So now they call it the accidental paradise of demilitarized zones.
How will you be visually representing those ideas?
The red crown cranes is a huge symbol for every East Asian country. The red crown cranes represent fortune and luck. I'm using the red crown cranes in my drawings and also in sculptural forms, but also tying that into demilitarized zone because the red crown cranes was endangered. It was a critically endangered species and is found haven in the demilitarized zone.
For Jason S. Yi, art is about personal expression. He draws from his life experiences to create beautiful art, rich in story and filled with meaning.
And these are all pine needles that I'm currently drawing.
But like all of us, he didn't get to where he's at without help from others. And that, he says, is what he hopes people take away from his art.
Artists are sometimes viewed as sort of these eccentric souls who live outside of the mainstream community. It's difficult being an artist anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're an emerging artist, it doesn't matter if you're an established artist, that we need support from the general public and from each other.
It is gratifying because it is meditative. What is the name for this? Picking?
Detailing.
Detail work, that's my speed.
Come back anytime, Sandy.
I would love to. This is like weeding.
My goal is to create a community and be part of the community, not just a creative community, but build this sort of a community of openness, conversation, and communication.
Thanks for watching the Arts Page. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories of art in our community.